We think, for whatever reason, it's a coping mechanism in a sense because we're so busy and our lives are so full, we have to compartmentalize things. And so what in fact begins to happen is we say to the one who has made us out of dust, God, you can have an hour and a half of my time on Sunday mornings. You can have 10% maybe of what I earn. The rest is mine. I want to humbly suggest to you today that the one who has made you out of dust has given you the opportunity to give your all to him, for his glory, for his kingdom, for his work, for the people who are created in his image. You know I live in Vancouver, British Columbia. It's as much a Western city, Western civilization as Houston is. We are inundated by the belief that if we live for ourselves, we will become happy. We will become joyful. You know, I've seen the brokenness of that mentality. And it's really close to my heart because I've seen it in my dad's life. For this to make sense, I need to tell you about my father because my dad is a self-made man. He's worked himself into the ground, becoming all that he is. He was the first of his family to go to college, and he's gone up from there. He's pulled himself up by his bootstraps. My dad was in the United States Marine Corps. One of the things he learned in the Marine Corps was how to turn off his emotions. He can do it better than anybody I've ever met. I've seen my dad weep 4 times in my whole life. Once was at his mom's funeral. The other was at his dad's funeral. The third time was at dinner in high school. We're sitting around the family dinner table. My dad's on my left, my mom's on my right, my younger sister's across the table from me. And out of nowhere, my dad starts to weep. And you know the feeling you get in your gut when you get a phone call at 3 a.m. and before you even pick it up, you just know something is awfully, awfully wrong. Well, I have that sinking feeling. I'm looking at my dad. I'm like, oh no, what happened? What happened? I look to my right at my mom, and my mom is beginning to weep. And I look across the table at my younger sister, and she's begun to cry. I don't want to be left out of my family, so I start to cry. I don't even know what we're crying about, but we're all sitting around the table having a good family weep. You know, what's going on? Slowly we begin to collect ourselves, and we're all looking at my dad and saying, Dad, what is it? What happened? You know, what? His response has seared itself into my memory. He said, I don't know. But I am miserable. I don't get it. I just don't get it because look at my life. My life is perfect. I have everything I've ever wanted. I mean, seriously, no, look at my life. It's absolutely perfect. Everything that I've ever wanted for myself, I've accomplished. Look at my family, a great wife, 2 kids, a dog. We have 2 cars, a great home, a condo in the mountains that we vacation at. I have everything I've ever wanted, and I'm miserable. I don't get it. Okay, table that thought. A couple years ago, I was in Newark, New Jersey, at a rescue mission dinner much like this one. And I was sitting next to a 75-year-old woman named Lucy. And over the course of the meal, I looked at Lucy and I said, hey, you know, tell me about yourself. Who are you? I mean, you're 75. You're 3 times as old as I am. Tell me about yourself. Who are you? Give me some wisdom. I'm a young guy here. Help me out, okay? She put down her fork and she said, well, do you really want to know about me? I said, yeah, please tell me. And she said, okay, well, when I was 15, I became a prostitute. I said, I didn't expect the story to start that way. Okay, tell me more, I guess. She said, yeah, from 15 to 25, I was a prostitute. And I sold myself every night on the street so I could buy the drugs that I was addicted to. And I'm thinking, wow, okay. 10 years of prostitution, okay. I said, well, what happened? She said, well, when I was 25 years old, a Christian lady moved into an apartment on the street that I used to walk every night selling myself. She began to reach out to me and to my other prostitute friends, and she began to try and preach to us and tell us about the love of Jesus. She tried to tell us that there's a different life for us. This is not what God created us for. And Lucy's telling me this. She said, Mike, at first, of course, we stiff-armed this lady. We cussed her out. We told her we didn't want to know anything about this Jesus, and we didn't care about her. We didn't want to know. And then Lucy's telling me, she said, Mike, one night I got beat up pretty bad, and the guy threw me out of his car, and I'm lying there on the sidewalk. I have a broken nose, 2 eyes that are swollen shut, 2 broken ribs. I can't even move. And I hear a door open and footsteps coming down the front steps of an apartment. And then hands picking me up, helping me inside, and laying me down on a couch. Lucy had ended up right in front of that Christian woman's apartment. And that Christian lady, rather than choosing to say to herself, see, I told her this was going to happen, and shutting her blinds and going to bed, she opened up her door, walked down the steps, picked Lucy up, brought her inside. Lucy's telling me the story, and I'm not eating dinner anymore. I'm just listening to her. I'm completely focused on this. I can't believe what she's telling me. And she says, Mike, over the next couple of weeks, I slowly healed, and this lady led me to Christ. And when I accepted the Lord, my cocaine addiction was gone. And that doesn't always happen, of course, but for Lucy, it did. She hasn't used anything since. Long story short, this elderly Christian lady helped Lucy move out of that part of Newark, New Jersey, helped her find a different job, helped her begin to get her feet back underneath of her. 5 years after that, when Lucy is 30 years old, she's married to a wonderful Christian man named Harold. Lucy and Harold get a telephone call that that elderly Christian lady has passed away. And here's where I lost it. Lucy and Harold heard the Lord leading them to move back into that exact same apartment where Lucy had given her life to Christ, where that elderly Christian lady had lived, so that they could begin to do the same kind of outreach on the same streets that Lucy used to prostitute herself on. That was 45 years ago, when Lucy was 30. She's 75 now, and I'm sitting next to her at her dinner just like this one, and I cannot believe what I'm hearing. And Lucy is just alive. I mean, you know what it's like. You know what it's like to meet someone who is truly alive. And she's got this fire and this passion in her eyes, and she's talking about all that God is doing through Harold and her small apartment on the streets of Newark, New Jersey. She's telling me about the people who come by and the fact that everybody in that area knows that if you need anything at all, you can come to Lucy's. If you need a place to stay because you've gotten evicted from your apartment, if you need some food because your food stamps have run out, if you get beat up and you need some medical attention, you can come to Lucy's. And she's sitting there and she's telling me this, and she's like, Mike, I don't understand how it works because, Harold and me, we don't have very much. There's days I go to my pantry and I open up the cupboards and I don't have enough food to feed me and my husband, and yet I have always seen God provide for the work that he has for us to do. And she said, Mike, I don't understand how it works, but it's like the more I give away, the more alive I become. The more I give away, the more I seem to have. I'm full of joy and full of life. And the whole time, she's telling me this. You know what I'm thinking about? I'm thinking about my dad. My dad, who has everything that he's ever wanted and is miserable. And then this 75-year-old woman named Lucy, who has spent her life caring for others, and she's fully alive. Jesus said something about that in the Gospel of Mark, chapter 8, verses 35 and 36, when he said, whoever seeks to save his life will lose it. But whoever loses his life for my sake and for the sake of the Gospels will find it. We live in a culture and a day and age which screams at us, live for yourself, consume, and it will make you happy. And yet as Christians, we know that the truth is, as we seek to care for others, as we seek to love our Lord, our God, with all of our heart, all of our mind, all of our soul, all of our strength, and our neighbors as ourselves, then we come alive. For that is what we were created for.